Hello, I'm Antonio Mora. This is the news and news.com Day in Brief on Monday, February 25th at about 7 p.m. If you believe the South Korean government, President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un may declare a formal end to the Korean War at their summit in Vietnam. That would be a first step toward a treaty to replace the ceasefire that's been in place for more than 60 years. Kim is on his way by train to Hanoi, and Trump left on Air Force One this afternoon. However, when it comes to real progress on North Korean denuclearization, the White House has lowered expectations, with Trump saying he is now in no hurry to have the Hermit Kingdom prove it was abandoning nuclear weapons, insisting he'd be happy if North Korea is not testing nukes and missiles. While it's easy to say that it's better for Trump and Kim to be talking than threatening each other with nuclear annihilation, the North Koreans have traditionally used negotiations to buy time, continue developing their weapons, and obtain concessions. 58 bipartisan former national security officials are denouncing Trump's invocation of emergency powers, saying they, quote, are aware of no emergency that remotely justifies it. Included in the group are 2 secretaries of state, 2 defense secretaries, and some of America's top diplomats and intelligence officials. While some of the biggest names are Democrats, plenty of prominent Republicans are among the signatories. Separately, nearly 24 former GOP lawmakers are urging Republicans in Congress to oppose the declaration. Of course, a Trump tweet followed, with the president telling GOP leaders to, quote, be strong and smart, don't fall into the Democrats' trap of open borders and crime. Trump is putting off an increase in tariffs on Chinese imports, citing substantial progress in the ongoing trade talks with Beijing. He said he'd hold a summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping at Mar-a-Lago if a final deal is reached. World equity markets reacted positively, and all the major U.S. stock indexes were up slightly. Oil prices fell sharply after Trump tweeted that they were getting too high, telling OPEC to, quote, please relax and take it easy. World cannot take a price hike. Fragile. Prices had been gradually rising after production cuts by OPEC, the crisis in Venezuela, and the sanctions on Iran. But the price per barrel dropped about 3% today after the tweet. Separate storms are causing serious deadly problems around the U.S., including a major pileup in Wisconsin that killed 1 and injured dozens. One winter storm that has slammed the Midwest and Northeast has knocked out power to more than 500,000 people, canceled hundreds of flights, and shut down major interstates. Powerful winds are bringing down trees and power lines. Another storm has triggered killer tornadoes and flooding in the south. Yet another storm is dumping snow and flooding rains in the Pacific Northwest, closing schools and cutting power to thousands. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is battling cancer, and in a new interview he said he couldn't think of anything good done by Trump. Reid, who was always a searing critic of George W. Bush, said he wishes for Bush every day and referred to the 43rd president as Babe Ruth when compared to the current one. In a tweet, Trump ripped Reid, saying he's trying to put a good spin on his failed career. Former Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen had her own choice words for Trump today, saying he does not have a grasp of economic policy. Trump declined to extend Yellen's term as the head of the Fed. She also said Trump does not understand the impact of the Fed on the economy. Longtime Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif appears to have resigned through a cryptic post on his Instagram account. The post said, quote, I apologize for my inability to continue serving and for all the shortcomings during my term in office. Zarif helped craft the Iran nuclear deal, but faced harsh criticism after the U.S. pulled out. Vice President Pence joined an emergency summit of regional leaders in Colombia's capital, Bogota, to discuss the Venezuelan crisis. He urged the so-called Lima Group to freeze oil assets controlled by the Maduro regime, give the funds to Juan Guaido, who's recognized by the group as Venezuela's legitimate president, and restrict visas to Maduro's cronies. Pence also announced a new round of sanctions against the dictatorship and promised Guaido financial assistance in the effort to deliver the much-needed aid to the economically devastated country. Over the weekend, the Maduro regime fired on activists trying to bring supplies into Venezuela, killing at least 4 and injuring hundreds. Maduro has even threatened to fire on a humanitarian aid ship from Puerto Rico. R. Kelly appeared in court in Chicago dressed in an orange jumpsuit. The superstar R&B singer pleaded not guilty to 10 sex abuse charges. The 4 alleged victims include 3 underage girls. His lawyers insist he's done nothing wrong, but say Kelly's finances are a mess, so it took until this afternoon to post bond. Florida prosecutors have charged New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft with 2 counts of soliciting prostitution. They also released a document luridly detailing the alleged sexual encounters. The NFL says it is seeking an understanding of the facts and will then take appropriate action as warranted. If you care about the Oscars and didn't get to watch, go to YouTube and find Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper's rendition of Shallow. That and Olivia Colman's speech when she won Best Actress are probably the only moments of the eternally long telecast worth watching. Green Book was a controversial Best Picture winner, so much so that Spike Lee stormed off. Of course, because the chairman can't avoid politics and everything seems to be about Trump these days, when Lee had won an award earlier, he called for mobilizing against Trump in 2020. That led to an equally inevitable Trump tweet that was somewhat over the top, calling it a racist hit on your president. On the positive side, more African Americans and women won Academy Awards than ever before. But conservative writers point out that diversity did not include diversity of opinion. Finally, I'm far from being a fashion critic, but we will put in our 2 cents anyway. Did top designers go on strike, or were they smoking something? Those dresses were something. We have all the angles covered in multiple posts. And if you fly from Australia home to Glasgow, Scotland, and open your suitcase and all of a sudden see a snake in your shoe, well, that's exactly what happened to a Scottish woman who first thought it was a joke because she thought she had seen a snake in her room in Australia and people didn't believe her. But then she touched it and it moved. Fortunately, the spotted python is not poisonous and will be housed in a Glasgow zoo. You can find all those stories and much more updated around the clock on newsandnews.com. Please follow us on Facebook at Real News and News and follow me on Twitter at AMoraTV. I will see you again tomorrow.